So we should be at step 5 at this point. If you, I'm not sure. I guess it's been a while since yesterday, but let's just all go and catch up to this step. So make sure to CD into your Capit React folder. Once you're in there, get reset hard and then get checkout workshop 3, step 5, just so that we're all at the same page. All right. So now that you guys have checked out step 5 for workshop 3, let's kind of get into what we're going to be doing in this step. In this step, we're going to be focusing on navigating through different pages on our site. So this is kind of like the structure that we want for our site, where app is this big container for everything. And then we have a couple pages underneath that where we want a feed page, a profile page, and then a not found page in case like a user navigates to a part of the website that doesn't exist. And then we're going to want to have this nav bar component for users to be able to click around and get to those different pages on our site. So we're going to be displaying different pages by using routing. And this pretty much takes the form of paths in the URL. So for example, if a user was to go to catbook.com, we'd probably expect them to go to the feed page, because that's like the home page. They did catbook.com/profile, then they'd end up in the profile page. And if they did something like down here, where it's just slash and then a bunch of random characters that are not a defined page, it would take them to the not found page, just because that's not something that exists under our model. And for app navigation, we're going to be using the reach router library. And just keep in mind that it's reach router, because there is a thing called React router. And if you happen to be searching online for help or documentation, you might stumble across React router stuff. But for this class, we're going to be using reach router. So just make sure to keep that in mind when you're searching things up. So the way that our website is going to be rendered, it's going to be, so the URL is the first part. Whatever's up here in the address bar will be sent to this router component. This router component is the one that will determine what page to show the users. So depending on what that path in the address bar is, it'll either render this component, that component, or that component, etc. Yeah, so we'll be using that router component inside of our app.js to give our app, it'll be able to handle those cases for all the different paths in your URL. And instead of navbar.js, we're going to be using a different component that is also part of the reach router library called a link component. This component will be a visible component that the user can click on. And whenever a user clicks on one of these link components, the address bar will get a different URL depending on whatever we want that link component to take them to. Once that URL has been changed, then the router component is able to do the logic for which page to show the user. So these are two different ones, and it might make a little bit more sense once we actually start implementing them. So that's just kind of a preview of what's going to happen in step 5. And at the end of step 5, we would want to have 3 different pages: the home page, the feed page, profile page, and then a not found page in case users end up somewhere we're not supposed to be. All right, so let's go and dive into the code. Yep. So let's go ahead and go navigate over here to app.js. And we're going to want to import router from reach router. So you do that like this, import, and then in curly braces, router from at reach router. And now if you don't see this, or if it doesn't, if it gives you an error, tells you that reach router doesn't exist or something like that, you might want to go ahead and run npm install like this. This will install all of the dependencies that this directory needs, such as reach router.
Could you zoom in a little?
Yeah.
There
you go. Okay. And then on top of the router, we also will want to import that not found page here. Because if we uncomment this, right now we have a profile page and a feed page, but we also want that extra page in case a user ends up somewhere not supposed to be. So import not found from pages and not found.js. Cool. So now, this is kind of like the structure that we have right now inside of our app, where we got this profile page and a feed page. And if we were to do npm, if we were to go and check out our site to see what it looks like right now, let me see. Yeah, so with npm hotloader, this will start to compile the website, and then we can go take a look to see what it would look like without that reach router. Just give it a second. Cool. All right, and then we go to localhost, and so here without the reach router, you can see that we got the profile page, and then right underneath the feed page, and they're just stacked on top of each other like that. And that's not what we want. We want to have them be separate pages. So then we can go ahead and bring in that router component that we were talking about. So all we do is just these are our two pages, and then we just want to enclose them in our router tag. So something like this, router. And there you go. So now the feed and the profile page are inside of this router component. And then let's go ahead and also bring our not found page in here. Cool. And then the other thing that we're gonna have to do with this router component is we're gonna have to give each of these pages a path, kind of like how we talked about in the slides, where the URL's path will determine which page we show. And to do that, we just add this prop to each page path. And then that's where we specify what we want. So for the profile page, we talked about, we would want it to be the catbook.com/profile. So then we do /profile. And for the path name here, we don't do like catbook.com/profile. Whatever the domain name is, you can just assume that you don't need that. You just need whatever comes after it. So here we just need /profile. For the feed, we want this to just be the page that the user navigates to without any sort of extra stuff after the domain name. So we would expect it to be like catbook.com and then /nothing. So in that case, then we just do a /. And then not found, because it is the page that we want to display in like the worst case scenario where there's none of these are met. Then we just do this default keyword. And so now it'll know to display the not found page in case these do not, in case the user types in a URL that do not meet these criteria. So if you save that and go over to your cat book, you should see that we are now in the feed page because there's nothing coming in after the domain name. And if we were to do /profile, then it would take us to the profile page. And if we did / just some random characters that don't mean anything, it would take you to that not found page. So now we have navigation in our site, which is great. But, you know, we don't want our users to be having to type in stuff into their address bar all the time so that then they can navigate our website. Typically, that's not how it's done. Typically, you like can move around just by clicking on a link or using the nav bar. So we're going to go and implement our nav bar now and use those link components that we talked about earlier to give users a clickable way of navigating the site. So if you go to your files on the left, there should be a navbar.javascript file here. And then here is where we're going to import that link component. So import link, and then it's coming from reach router as well. So reach router. And then you simply just put the different link components that you would want. So if we think about it, we only have 2 pages that we really want the user to be able to access. It's either the feed page or the profile page. It wouldn't make sense to have like a link for the not found page. That's just not very useful to a user in the nav bar. So let's go ahead and make a link for the home page and then a link for the profile page. And then we also got to define what path we want the address bar to take whenever user clicks on these. And instead of doing the path keyword like we did for the router link, the prop that you want to pass in is 2. And then here we just define the path. So if they were to click on home, you want them to go to /nothing. And if they were to click on profile, that you want them to go to /profile. So after we have something that kind of looks like that, if we go to cat book, you can see up here that we got this nav bar going on with the home and profile button. And so you click on profile, should take you to the profile. If you click on home, you'll go to the home. So it's working as intended, but it doesn't look very great. So we could just add a little bit of CSS to make it look a little bit more approachable. And if we go over to the navbar.css file that's defined over here, we got a couple of different things we can work with. So let's see. It looks like there's a class for navbar links. So each of those individual links could get their own styling. And then it also looks like there's a navbar link container, which we probably want to just have surrounding all of those links. So let's go ahead and just start from the bottom here. Each link will get the class navbar link. And then down here as well. Cool. And then let's see what else. We also have the navbar link container class. So to do that, let's just put all of our links inside of a container div like this. Cool. So now the links are inside of a div, and then we can give this specific div tag a class of navbar link container. So now that you have a structure that kind of looks like this with a div tag enclosing the links and then each link with their own navbar link class name. If we go over here to Capbook, it looks a little better. We probably would just want the Capbook title and the navbar links to align. So to align them, we're going to use this utility class that we defined earlier, u-inline block. So let's do that for the container here, u-inline block. And then let's also do it over here for the navbar title, where it says Capbook. And then this will just ensure that they're on the same line instead of being stacked on top of each other like they are right now. So now the title will be inline, and then those links will also be inline. So if we go back to Capbook, it does what we'd expect. You got the Capbook title and the links on the same line. And now it looks a lot better, and it's functional. So we have implemented navigation in our site now, which is great because now we can have multiple pages and it just kind of gives more depth to your site. So after you guys have the CSS for the navbar and it's working properly, that's it for step 5. So we can go ahead and move on to step 6. So if you want to catch up or you're still a little bit behind, just get reset -- hard and then go to step 6. All right, so steps 6 through 8 are going to be a little bit like steps 1 through 4 yesterday, where we were making the stories, except today we're going to be implementing comments onto Capbook so that every story has a little comment section. And, we're also going to give users the ability to add more comments and stuff like that. So let's just remind ourselves on how we were getting those stories from the API yesterday. We were using that GET request to API/stories, and then it would give us all of the stories for Capbook. There were no parameters that we had to give into that GET request because there's no specificity that we need there. So just give me all of the stories. And then if we wanted to create a new story, it would be a post request to API/stories, and then post a new story. The only parameter here that we need is the content of the story. So then you'll be able to store that in the database. So now for comments, it's going to be very similar, but also like a tad different. We're going to want to get, send a GET request to API/comment. And what we expect is to get all the comments back for a specific story, not to just get back all the comments on Capbook. And so we're going to have to be passing in a parent parameter, which will just be the ID of whatever story we want to get the comments for. And then same thing for the posts. We are now going to have this new parent parameter on top of the content. So the comment will have the comment's content, but also the ID of whatever story it has to be like stuck to. Yep. So let's see. Additionally, in this step, we're gonna stop using only the single story components, and we're gonna bring in these card components. So then we're able to kind of have, if you see this little rectangle here that says "Hello World," it's got the story, but also underneath it should have all the comments. And then we're gonna make this one component just to like keep it all, keep it all like modular. So that's going to be called the card component. And we're going to render them just like we did with the stories with that iterative rendering. Yeah, so we can jump into the code and start working on that. Let's see. So here to the left, we got the card.javascript file where we're going to be doing a lot of this implementation. So if you go look at feed right now, what we're doing is we have this list of stories and we're rendering all of them. So we want to be able to kind of do that over here, but only for a single story. So we're just gonna have to import that single story component from single story.js. And then inside of the card, let's create the structure for what we want to be rendering. So here we'll want to have a single story component. And then single story takes in the idea of the story, the creator name, and the content of the story as props. And if we look over here at the docstring, card also takes in 3 props, and they're the same props. So let's just put props in here so then we can have access to them, because this is what's being passed into card. So now instead of single story, we can also pass in those props like this. So single story wants that ID, creator name, and content. Let's start with the ID. So then we just go inside our props that are being passed into the card, and we can dig and get that ID prop as well to put into single story. Same with creator name, props dot creator name, and then content, same thing, props dot content. And then that's our single story component. So now the card will have that one story that it has to render given these props. And we're gonna have to implement the comments now. So if you go to feed, just to remind ourselves how it's working, we kind of have this, we have a state where we're holding all of our stories, and it's just a big array of stories. So we're going to want to do that in card as well for the comments, because now the card only has one story, but it has multiple comments. So we're going to want to do that. So let's make that comment state, and then set comments. And then we're going to want to initialize it to an empty array. So inside of use state, just put in that empty array, and that's whatever comments will be initialized to. Don't forget to import use state from React. Okay, so now under the use effect function, this will be ran whenever the page first loads. So we're going to want to get a call request here to, we're going to want to call a get request to retrieve all the comments from the API. And this is the exact same thing we did here in feed with the stories, but we're just going to want to change it up for comments. So we can go ahead and copy that over from feed.js and just paste it into here. Cool. So we're just gonna have to change a little bit of things. We're not going to API/stories anymore. We're going to API/comments. And if you remember, we have to pass in the story ID to get the specific comments for a specific story. And we do that by, we can put parameters if after the path, you just do comma, and then here we're going to put in those parameters. As you can see up here, the help little pop-up is telling us what to do. And then for that, we're just going to be passing in the ID of whatever story we want, and that'll be the parent. Let's see, what was it? That's right. So the parameter is going to be parent. So just we kind of make like this little object where it's parent and then points to props.id. So that'll send a get request to the server. And when we get that back, we'll get back all the comments for a specific story. And then it'll run this function over here. And we just want to set comments to whatever comment objects we get back from the API. Cool. So that should be giving us our comments from the server. And then it should be changing our comments states to whatever we get back. So, we can also go ahead and add that down here now. Right under the story, we're going to want to show the comments. And when we get these comments back from the API, it's going to be in a JSON format. So we're going to want to make that into a string. So just do JSON stringify, and then inside of here, comments, and that'll make it legible. What's going on? Oh, yeah. And React doesn't like it whenever we have like multiple components here without a container. So let's just do a div for both these guys, the single story and the comments. Cool. So now the comments and the single story are all inside of this one container div, and React is happy. We're not getting any more errors. And after this, our card should be ready to go. We got the single story, and then we got the comments for that story, and then we're rendering those two things together. So the card looks like it's good to go. And we're just gonna have to go into feed.js and change up how things are done over here, because right now we're still displaying all of these stories, and we want to start displaying cards. So let's go and import that card component that we just made. From modules, and then card.js. Cool. So now we got the card inside of our feed, and let's just let's see. Yeah, down here, instead of making single stories, let's make cards. And they would need one more parameter, the ID of the story. So then let's give it that prop. And cool. So if you remember here, we're just getting all of these stories from the API and then mapping them into a big array of cards. So that's what's going on over here. Otherwise, it'll just have this other div that says no stories. Then the stories list will be displayed down here. So after you have that done, give me a second. Yeah, after you have that done, you should be able to kind of see how you got your story, and then right underneath it, you got the comments, which is what we expected, because now we got this card component here, which incorporates both that comment and the story. Yeah, something's going on. Let me see. Right. So sorry, I did the wrong URL up here. Inside a card, we don't do get/API/comments. It's just comment singular. So if you have comments, just go ahead and change that in your get requests. And then now we should see that we have all the comments for a specific story right underneath of them, which is what we expected and what we wanted. And that's it for step 6. So in step 7, we're going to make this look a lot neater. Because right now it's really, that you want it to a website and that's what you saw. It's just not very legible. But we have all the stuff that we need to make it legible. We have the creator name, the content, and we can make it look really pretty. So let's go ahead and do that in step 7. So if you haven't caught up yet, or you're a little behind, let's just do git reset card. And then check out step 7. Don't forget, we have the help queue, the questions document. If you guys are stuck or need someone to come over there and see what's going on with your laptop, if maybe you're getting some errors. All right, so now for step 7, you guys are gonna go and do a little bit of work on your own for a bit. Step 7, we're gonna be implementing single comment, the component for single comment. And what that's gonna do is pretty much gonna take all the information that we got from the comments earlier and then make it into this nice thing here, where you can see we got the comment author, then like a bar, and then the comment content. And then we're going to be using that single comment component inside of card. So if you go to card, you see right now the way that we're rendering our comments is with this kind of like JSON thingy here, but we would want to replace this with a single comment list. So like a list of a bunch of single comments, and then have that show up there instead of just this big chunk of JSON strings. Yeah, so single comments over here to the left, it tells you here what steps you should be focusing on implementing. So here you'll want to use JavaScript and props to render that comment creator name and the content of the comment. Once you have single comment ready, then you want to go over to card, and then kind of like how in feed we have this list of card objects going on over here, where we kind of like do this and map all of those to a card object. You'll want to be doing that inside card for your comments. So you already should have this big list of comments, and then you can just do map on that list to create a bunch of single comment components and then have it rendered down here. So you guys, yeah, you'll get like, I think like around like 10 minutes to implement that. We'll see depending on time, but yeah, go ahead and try that out. If you guys have any questions, again, we got TAs, we got the questions doc. So get in the queue if you feel like you're stuck or you don't understand something, and then we'll continue in a bit.
You have a question?
There's a problem with one of the steps.
Oh, really?
So actually, if you do check out W3 step 7 and git pull, the latest version has it
Right.
according to this URL. You have to change it to 3.
Yeah, I did that in the earlier one. I guess I didn't do it in this step. I can make an announcement.
Yeah, could you just
Yeah,
tell
that
people
happens to
that
me
if
as well.
it's like no stories, then you can try changing it to 3.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll also like push it so people can like git pull.
I think it is pushed, is it not? It might be on only a couple of branches.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I did, there was something there. Okay,
Try to look for the steps, and if it's like, if some of the stuff there's no geology.
okay, cool. Sounds good. Yep.
All right, hello, just a quick announcement, so if you guys are getting. If your cat book kind of looks something like this, where it says no stories. It's just because. So you might want to go over here to where it says utilities.javascript. And in the base URL, just change catbook workshop 2 to catbook workshop 3. And then that should be doing the get request from the right location. And then you should see your stories. Because I think at some point this base URL was workshop 2. And I'm not sure why, but whenever you check out the workshop 3 steps, sometimes it's not workshop 3, it's workshop 2. So make sure that this base URL says workshop 3. And again, that's inside of utilities.javascript. And that should fix you not being able to see any stories. All right, could we get a quick progress check? If you're still working on this, just raise your hand real quick. Okay, we'll do like a 2-ish more minutes or something. All right, guys, let's go ahead and just see how to do this. If you're still working on it, that's okay. I'm just gonna kind of run through how you can implement it, if you want to follow along. So, let's go and just start by looking at a single comment first. We just wanna, if we look at the example over here, we just wanted to have the author bolded, a bar, and then the comment content. So to do that, we would, well, first we see that we're getting these props passed into single comment. So let's make sure to be able to use them. And then we can use a span tag. Just because a span versus a div, the div will stack things on top of each other. But if you saw the comment component, we kind of want to have like the author name and then the comment content right next to it. So we're gonna be using a span tag for that. It'll just have that inline styling. And not to say that you can't do that with div tags, you can if you got some CSS going, but this will just make it a little easier for us. So in here, let's go ahead and get that props.creator name. And let's make another span tag with this like bar. Something like that. And then next to the bar, we can do the props.content. Cool. So now we should have the creator name and like this little separator in the middle, and then the props, the comment content next to it. And then if you notice, there's like this little, we got to make sure that the author name is bolded, so we can apply a class to the creator name. And then we're just going to use our utility bold class. And that should be it for single comment. Not too crazy. This is just kind of going to store that information. And then we're going to populate it with, inside of card.js. So now that we have single comment implemented, let's go ahead and import it over here to card. So import single comment. All right. So now we're going to want to make an array of these single comment components out of the comments that we already have from the API. So we're going to do something very similar to what we did over here with our stories list. If you want to go to feed, we can just like copy this little chunk here from line 15 to 23, where, in the feed, we're making all these card objects. We're making a ton of them iteratively, and we can do that for the comments inside of a card. So if you copy that over here, yeah, let's put that underneath the use effects. Well, let's just change a couple names here. So we don't want the stories list anymore. We want this to be a comment list. And maybe let's make this a little easier to read. So single comments list. That way we won't confuse it with this other list of comments that we have. This single comments list is supposed to store the single comment components. Cool. And then not has stories, but has comments. And here we're just gonna be checking if our comment state has any length at all. If so, if there are comments, then our single comments list will be equal to, and we map over all of these comments that we got from the API. For each of these comment objects, we're going to want to make a single comment component. And let's just see what props it wants. The single comment wants the ID of the ID of the story, I believe, the creator name, and then the content of the comment. So here it's got comment objects instead of story objects. And then down here, let's just change this stories list, comments list, or single comments list. And then no comments. Yep. Okay, so now here we should be having just like this array of single comment objects that we created out of the comments that we already had stored in our state. And now that we have that, we can replace this JSON.stringify line and just replace it with our single comments list that we just created. And then that way we should have a bunch of these single comment components being rendered out underneath of the story. Let's go check to see if that worked. And it did. So yeah, as you can see, we got the structure that we wanted inside of card with the story up here, and then a bunch of these single comment components right under it that were rendered using that map function. And in case there were no comments, it would just say no comments like this. Cool. So for step 8, that's pretty much it. We have our comments implemented, but users can't create any new comments. So we're going to go and do that next. All right, so let's all get on the same page. So get reset hard, and then let's check out step 8. And again, if you do get reset hard and then you check out another branch and it says no stories, it might again just be that one line inside of utilities.js. Okay, cool. There we go. All right. Cool. So step 8. Now we're going to want to implement that new comment component so that then users can go and make a comment. And just a refresher for the post requests here that we're going to have to be making whenever you make a new comment. We not only want to send up the content of our comments, but also the parent of the comment. So whatever story it's supposed to be attached to. And then we should end up with something like this down here where we have the comment section, and at the very bottom, you can create a new comment. So let's see. All right. So let's go into the code and let's go and implement this new comment component. So if you remember from yesterday, we have this new post input file where we created the new story component, and then users are able to make new stories that way. We're going to want to do a very similar thing for comments down here. So actually, it'll be pretty much the exact same thing. So if we want to copy this over this logic from a new story down here to the comment, we could just paste that and then just change a little bit of naming. So we want this to be add comment. And then we're hitting the API/comment for the API. Here, the body of our post request, it will have content, but it would also require that story ID. So the parent, and then props.story ID. So then that would be the two parameters that we want to be sending in the body of our post requests. And yeah, just make sure that you put props here inside of your new comments arguments, so then we can have access to those props. And yeah, again, looking up at the doc string here, it says that we will have a story ID passed down into new comments, so that should help us be able to create this body for our request. Once the post request has been completed, we just gotta, well, now we just gotta make sure to render that input field for the user, so we can return the new post input component that we also have for new story. And let's just change a few things. The default text will now be new comments. And on submit, instead of running add story, we will run add comment. Yeah. So then now this gives us that input field where users can go and create new comments, and we're going to want to put that into our card. So let's go and do that. Now that we have this, go back to card.js and import your new comment component. And just down here where we are rendering stuff, we want the story, all the comments, and then that option for users to make a new comment. So we're just going to put it down here underneath all of the comments, like so. New comments. And if you remember, it takes in one prop, which is the story ID. So, and then we want that to be from our props. Cool. So then that should give us the new comment input field. And once you click on create a new comment, it'll send a post request and it'll get stored in the database. So let's go take a look at what is going on over here. Okay, cool. Yeah. So again, our card component now has the new comment down here. And we can go ahead and make a new comment, submit. And once you submit, it'll send that post request to the API, so then it can store whatever you just created. Hit refresh. It might take a while. When you have a bunch of people using the same API, it just goes a little slower. Let's try that again. Okay. Interesting. So our comments aren't showing up. Let's just go back and make sure that this new post input is working. So strange. It might be the API that's just a little slow at the moment. It's a little hard to tell. But yeah, that's basically it for the new comment component that we wanted. Just making sure that it's sending that post request. And whenever we have that complete and you have that on your site like that, then we should be done with this step. And we can move on to step 9. So again, if you're still working or you need to catch up, let's just get reset hard. And check out step 9. Okay, so for step 9, we're just going to want to make that comment section a lot neater than it is currently. Let's see if it'll show up. So yeah, I mean, right now what we have is we kind of have like this, we got this story up here, and then we have a ton of comments and like a comment input box, but it's not very clear necessarily like if they are different sections right now. You know, we could definitely improve the UI of this by making it like a comment block that will just contain everything pertaining to the comments right underneath the story. And we can maybe give it like a different background color just to make it pop out a little bit. It'll make that UI better, and also give our users a better experience while using it, because they won't be confused about what's going on down here. So that's what step 9 is for. We're going to be, we want to keep our components small and modular. So if we look at our component tree that we wanted, here inside of card, we're going to have a single story and then a comments block, which is pretty much just like our comments section. Inside of that comments block, we're going to want to put that single comment and the new comment components. And this is good because right now card, without this comments block, it's got the single story going on, the single comments, the big list of single comments, and the new comment. And that's kind of a lot going on just for card. So, you know, let's put all of that comment stuff inside of one comments block component and make it all happen inside here, instead of, you know, giving all that responsibility to card. And at the end of step 9, we're going to want to something that looks like this. As you can see, it's a lot cleaner, a lot more modular, where you got the story very clearly separate from the comments. So we're going to want to go and implement that. And we should have a, where is it? Yeah, right here, comments block.js. And this will be that section, that comment section that we saw in the slides. And for this, we will want to be, the main idea here is where we want to move all of this comment stuff that we have going on inside the card, and we want to just move it all over to comments block. So for that, we're going to want to be using our single comment and our new comment components. So import single comment in here, and then also import new comments. Okay, now that we have this, let's just kind of take a look at what's going on down here in the comments block. It looks like the props for comments block is going to be an array of comments, and then the story ID. Okay, so given the fact that we are passed in this list of comments, we're not going to have to do an API call from here. We're just getting passed down all those comments already. So we could just do a map function to turn those comments into single comment objects. And so let's go ahead and do that. So let's see, return. And then let's go into our props.comments. And then for those comments, we're going to want to map them into a single comment component. Okay, so single comments and then. Let's see. So a single comment takes in. Give me a second. So it might just want us to give it that container div, because right now we're getting some errors from React telling us that it doesn't want all of these components. It would just want one. Oops. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Oops. Yep, okay. So a single comment will take in a couple of we'll take in a couple of props. But this is the same props that we already had going on inside a card. And these props are, let's see, the ID, creator name, and content. So let's just go ahead and do that. And again, we're getting these from this big list of comments. Each of these comments should have an ID, creator name, and content. So we can just pass it into a single comment component. Creator name. All right, cool. So now we're having this list of comments that we're getting passed in, and we're mapping it to single comment components. And then, so we should now have this, we should have all the single comments being rendered. And then after that, we're going to want to add that new comment section in there as well. And it takes in a story ID. And fortunately, we already have that story ID inside of our props over here that's being passed into comments block. Yep. Don't forget to have props here inside of your comments block, arguments for it. That way we can access the props down here where we want to. Like, for example, we're doing props.comments and props.story, and we want to have access to those. So put props here. Okay. One final thing, we want to style this correctly. So if we go to the card.css file and just take a peek, here we got the card comment section class, and this is what we're going to want to use inside of our comments block. So as in that big div container that we have at the highest level of the comments block, let's go ahead and give it that class name, card comment section. And then that should be good. We should have a comments block that's implemented and styled correctly. So now we just got to go into our card.js and replace the stuff that we don't need in here anymore with our new comments block. So let's begin by getting rid of this part here from line 27 to 39. You can comment it out. If you want to delete it, you also can. But basically, this is the part where we were mapping all of those comments to single comment objects. But we're not going to need that anymore because our comments block is now taking care of that. So comment it out. And then down here, instead of having this comments list, we're going to want to put in our comments block. So let's import it import comments block. And we can also get rid of new comment and single comment because we won't need that inside of the card anymore. It's all being taken care of inside of comments block. Down here where we're rendering things, we can get rid of the new comment. Again, the comment block already is taking care of that, so we don't need that. And then here we can just have our single story and underneath it have that comment section. So let's just render it out, comments block. And if you remember the one prop, or I guess the two props that it would like is our big list of comments. So we have that stored in a state here inside of card.js. And then it would also like the story ID. And that is stored inside of the props for a card. Okay, cool. So now we're taking that big list of comments that we got from the API and we are passing it down into comments block. It's out of sight, out of mind for card, essentially. And so now comments block is taking care of all that we were doing in here now. And the card component itself is more, it has less things going on. It's mainly a container now for single story and comments block, which is what we wanted. Because I mean, the card is like, it's pretty much just storing these two guys, and then each of them will have their own stuff going on. So we can go take a look at cat book. Let's see. Okay, so it seems like I imported something wrong here. Yep. So now if you go to cat book, you should have something that looks kind of like this, where you got your story and underneath it, you got that comment section that we created. Not loading the comments, so let's go see. Let's just make sure the card is doing this right. Okay, maybe comments block got something. Interesting. Let me check something out. Okay, interesting. Okay, well, I guess once you got that comment section that looks like this, we can talk about something that's going on. Because I believe when we were coding it up, if you go into your inspect element, and here to console, you'll keep getting this warning that says each child in the list should have a unique key prop. And this is important because since we're having a bunch of these comment components, React would like to know which one is which. And for that, you need to pass in a key prop. And you do this anytime there's some sort of like iterative rendering. So for example, we're also getting that error for all of the stories because we're iterating while we want to create those. And so this is just something that you guys will want to do in the future. So for here, for example, and where we're mapping comments, for every single comment component, it wants to have a unique ID. So we pass in this key prop, and even though single comment doesn't say that it takes in that key prop, this is just something that you want to add whenever you're iterating through. So React wants us to give each of these guys a unique ID. And for that, we can kind of look at what the information that we have available to us. So we got, let's see, we got creator name. We could use the creator name as a key, as well as, let's see. As well as the index of whatever comment this is. And then that should be unique, because then, there's no comment where it's like it has the same index and then the same creator name. So let's see. We're just going to want to do something like this, and it turns it into a string, turns our comment creator name into a string. And then after it, we can put in that index. So now this key should be our creator name as well as the index of the comments. And this should be somewhat unique. There are safer ways of making unique keys, which we might talk about later. They're called UUIDs, and that would just be a better way of doing this in a more sophisticated, I guess, project. But if we go to cap book and inspect, now we're only getting that error for the stories. It's no longer yelling at us for not having unique keys inside of our comments. And so, if you ever inspect element and you see that error where it's telling you you should have a unique key prop, just make sure that somewhere in your code, whenever you're doing that iterative rendering, that you are having unique keys for everything. Okay, so after that, you should be good on workshop 3. It was a long workshop. It took us 2 days to cover it. So, if there's some stuff that you don't completely understand, that's fine. A lot of this was just to get some hands-on experience with making stuff in React. But yes, if you have questions, please ask on Piazza, be on the questions doc, or have a TA come around to explain something to you. And we can also just talk about one more thing. If you go to Capbook right now, if you noticed, if you want to just make like a new comment or a new story. So for example, this is my new comment. After you hit submit, it doesn't show up until you reset or refresh the page. Yeah, this is my new comment. So this is because if you remember from the React lifecycle that we talked about earlier this week, React will re-render components whenever a state changes or a prop changes, or, well, those are the two main ones. But right now we don't have any state change on submit. All of the props inside of this comment section stay the same. So what we would be able to do to make that render is just change some state or change some props inside of our comment section, so that then it would, refresh it every time. And that's just something to think about whenever you're wanting to make your apps a little bit more reactive. So, if you want to, you can try that out for step 10, but we won't be able to do that in lecture for the sake of time. Right. So that's what this is talking about, the live updating. It's just making sure it refreshes every time you submit something. And yeah, if you just want to see what it looked like, just do a quick get reset hard. Get checkout workshop 3 complete. And then this should have that kind of like rendering after you type in something new. So hello, please render. Submit, and then there you go. It pops up immediately. So that's probably because there's some state change going on inside of the code or some prop change, and that's how you would do that for your projects. Again, if you have questions on all of this, we have help resources, and don't be shy. We want you guys to understand this, and even though it's a lot.